Well, hi there. You're watching and or listening to North of Weatherfield, a Canadian Coronation Street podcast.
And this week we are talking about episodes that aired in Canada from July 22nd to July 26th. So this week, definitely, if you haven't caught up and you have the ability to catch up, don't watch it. Don't watch this. Go watch the show.
Oh, baby. Exactly. Avert your eyes and or ears and just
Yes.
don't even get too close to this podcast.
No, it was a big week.
Here comes the theme. My name's Brittlestar.
My name's Shannon.
These aren't our real names, of course. Our real names this week are...
I just think you're being a little unkind. And, really, I was just trying my best for Apollo and Gemini.
That was pretty good. Was that Birdie?
Yeah, I was trying to do her like kind of lilty-uppy Zen mother thing that she does.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was pretty good. I am this week going to be, it's one I've done before, but it's just so good.
Oh, dear.
Come on, babe. Come on,
oh,
babe.
Well, there you go. Now we're a couple again.
Come on, babe. Come on.
Because you're Dev.
Just come on. Thank you. We have the same hair, I think.
All right. This week we are talking about Kit, about Steve and Tim, about Sarah, Gary, and Maria.
Yeah.
About Betsy.
Yeah.
We now know that's her name, Swain's daughter. About Toyah, Nick, and Leanne. Massive storyline. About Roy. And then about Lauren. Yay!
I mean, is there really, I was thinking about this episode and I was like, was there really any point in talking about anything else except for the last 10 minutes of Thursday and both episodes on Friday?
Yes.
Okay. Fine.
So,
let's get through the other stuff quick.
So we are, you're in Nova Scotia. You've been traveling around the Maritimes.
Yes. Yeah, I'm
Halifax back here in Ontario.
Now. Yeah.
I've had visitors here. So both of us were running behind on episodes.
Yeah. So that's why we're a little bit late.
Yeah. So but you were all smug. You watched Thursdays before me and you were like, oh, Thursdays is massive. But then I watched Fridays before you and I was like, Thursday, Schmersday.
Exactly. You said I was a big wuss and I had no idea what I had coming.
So first of all, Kit. So Gemma, Kit, Paul, and Billy are in the Rovers having their family pint, and Jenny is all over eavesdropping on everything. Dev and Bernie come in. Dev installs Bernie at the head of the table, and he goes to buy everyone around, and he tells Bernie that, and Bernie tries to explain her side of it again. Someone suggests maybe she'd had postnatal depression when she gave Kit up. And she said, I might have, but I couldn't have coped anyways. Yeah. Gemma says, well, I know what it's like to be bone tired. And Bernie points out that Gemma has a great support system. I mean, we never see the quad squad.
No, exactly.
And Bernie had absolutely nobody. So I thought that was good.
Yeah, true.
But
Gemma has, she's got the quads and what's his face?
I mean, Joseph's in charge of the quads, though. Or do you mean Chesney? Because sometimes...
Well, Chesney and Joseph.
She's got him, too.
Exactly.
So the mood's starting to get heated. So Dev tells Bernie they're leaving. He says, go home, go meditate, have a cup of tea. I have to check in at the shop. I'll be there shortly. But then he sees Craig standing with Kirk. And he tells him to be cautious of his new partner, that he's a bit ruthless. And Craig says, well, that can be an asset in the profession. And I did appreciate Kirk saying, can you elaborate? Dev leaves. And just then Beth comes up and she tells them both that Kit is Bernie Winter's son, which blows their minds.
And then
you see Craig starting to put two and two together a bit.
Yeah.
So Craig then approaches Kit and tells him, hey, I'm shocked by the news, hearing about who your mom is, blah, blah, blah. And Kit's like, I don't see why that's shocking your world. Craig says, no, it's just really nice that Gemma has an ally. I mean, that shoe shop owner, he was really gunning for her. And then obviously you stepped in. And Kit was obviously he doesn't like to get caught out.
No.
And he knew what he was doing was wrong. So he was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I wouldn't do anything like that. Then Craig and his mom Beth are in the pub, and Beth demands details, and Craig says, Dev may have been right about Kit being a bit iffy. And then Beth demands the details, and Craig tells her the story. Like, you're a police officer. You can't.
I know. What's wrong with Craig?
So much.
Lots.
So Kit walks into the pub, and Beth says to Craig, I'm going to go over and thank him for what he did. And Craig's like, no, you can't tell him anything. Don't tell him anything. Well, Craig goes to the toilets, and Beth goes over, and she says, I want to thank you so much for what you did for Gemma. And Kit says, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she says, sorry. I want to thank you so much for what you didn't do for Gemma.
Yeah. For those listening, Shannon just winked.
It was a full body effort. And Craig drags her out of the pub. And then in the calf the next day, Craig approaches Kit, says it apologizes if it seems he inferred something. Kit's very cold, and he just says, I'm off on bereavement leave. I don't want to talk shop. I'm burying my mother. In the Rovers later, Kit thanks Gemma and Paul for the flowers sent to his mom's funeral.
Yeah.
Dev says, did you get any from anyone else? He says, yes, I got them from Bernie. And Dev is digging in, saying, shouldn't you say thank you? And he says, I'm not thankful at all. Nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And then Dev takes Bernie away and has a little talk and says, sometimes it's not worth the effort. Look at me and my older children.
Yes.
Sometimes it's better for everyone.
I did like when he said that line. He said, just look at me and my children, my older children. Like a little clarifier, like, remember everyone? I've got other kids, remember?
Yeah. Not Asha and Addy. They're still, they're still
great.
Employed
by
Coronation Street. So here's my question, though. Is Craig apologizing because he realizes he overstepped? Or is he actually a little afraid of Kit and realizes, oh, yeah, this isn't a good thing I just said?
Craig is a bit of a goofwad. Craig is, it's glass houses, Craig. Wise up, Tink. He's so concerned about doing the right thing, and not even the right thing. He's so concerned about doing it by the book. But then he bends those rules for himself all the time by telling everyone everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think he's just not a very good police officer. That's it. He's just not good at his job. Yeah.
So Steve and Tim, briefly. So Debbie tells Steve and Tim to go and sit down and get their stories together while she lets the club know that the bust has been recovered. They're starting to think they may have gotten away with it because the manager person she's talking to is looking all happy. And then Tommy O joins Debbie and the manager.
Yeah.
And comes over to them. And Tim tells them where they found the bust. Manager says how great it is that 2 County fans saved the day. And Steve goes to great pains to point out he's not a County fan.
Yeah.
Later, Tommy O comes into the Rovers, goes over to Steve and Tim in the corner and produces 2 season passes for them as a thank you for returning it. I don't think Tommy knew they'd stolen it, but I don't know.
I don't know either, but also I thought he was trying to be the bigger man.
I think he was.
He kind of rubbed salt in the wound by saying, you've already lost Tracy. Don't lose your favorite team as well.
See, I actually thought that was a nice thing he said.
But not from him. That should have come from Tim. Tim should have taken the tickets and went, thank you. And then said to Steve, listen, you've already lost Tracy. Don't lose your favorite team. Whereas Tommy O, it's like he's going to rubbing his nose in it.
I don't know. No, I found that it was Tommy O acknowledging that Tracy's probably not going to be his last relationship. Counties for life.
Oh, yeah. Counties for life, exactly.
But anyways, as soon as Tommy leaves, Cassie grabs the tickets, stuffs them down her top, and says that's her payment for keeping quiet about what happened. So currently they don't have the tickets.
Yeah. Cassie. I'm done with Cassie.
Yeah. So Sarah, Gary, and Maria. So Kit warns Sarah that DS Swain is getting suspicious about the money that Nathan had received. And sure enough, Sarah gets called in again for questioning. Sarah ends up admitting that, yes, she did pay Nathan $10,000, but she says she paid it to him just to make him go away, as Bethany was super traumatized about him being back around. She asks Swain if she's a mother, which Swain declines to answer. But of course, Sarah is soon going to be Betsy's boss, kind of.
Yeah.
So now we do have connections that are going to be made there. So Sarah then admits that a friend gave her the money. It wasn't her money, but she won't say who. And Swain says, well, we actually think Damon gave you the money because we still have unrecovered funds from Damon's heist.
Yeah.
So unless you prove otherwise, you're going to be charged with obtaining the proceeds of crime.
Yeah.
So Sarah summons Gary out of Liam's birthday party to tell him what happened. And a suspicious Maria follows behind and catches the two of them.
Fair enough.
Yeah. She wasn't wrong.
No, exactly.
He wasn't just going to buy popcorn. Yeah. And so Gary has said to Sarah before Maria gets there that he'll go to the police the next day and he'll tell the police that he gave her the money. Right. So they'll know the source of it. So the next day, coincidentally, Maria goes to the police station to follow up on a letter she received saying that Mason was being released. And lo and behold, Sarah is sitting there in the waiting room. And Sarah says, yes, I'd been going to ask about Bethany and Nathan about that whole case, but why don't we just forget that and we'll just go grab a coffee and chat, and you can tell me about Liam and Mason and why this is upsetting. Yeah. And Maria then says, well, no, I want to know more about what Mason's bail conditions are going to be like, so I really should wait. And Sarah said, it's going to be at least half an hour, they said, so we should actually just go get a drink.
Yeah.
Gary comes strolling out of the interview backroom area.
Yeah.
Does not do a good job of hiding his shock at seeing Maria there, with no shock at seeing Sarah there. So Maria is now furious at the two of them. Sure. They go outside. Once they're out there, to their credit, they tell her everything. Maria is understandably particularly upset that not only Gary told her lies about the money and they're a couple, but when she was suspicious about that money going missing, he made it seem like she was a bit of an idiot and didn't understand how things worked in business.
Yeah.
For being suspicious about it. So Gary explains that he and Sarah were a couple when Bethany was going through all this. So he feels very connected to this issue.
Which that was an honest answer. That was an honest answer.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he says, I'm just doing it for Bethany, nothing else. And Maria says, well, listen, you two can have each other because I'm at the end of my tether. Maria's then recounting all of this to David, and David does not seem surprised by the information she is telling him. Mm-hmm. She realizes that David already knew, and he says, it's my sister. I did. Gary comes into the salon, and David is desperate to leave, but Maria's not letting him. She wants him to listen to her chewing Gary out. Yeah. And so then David just launches the bomb. It was Gary who beat up Nathan. Bye. Yeah. Heads out.
Yeah. But better out.
Better out than in, as they say.
Exactly. Just like something else.
So that evening, Maria shows up at Sarah's flat and is grilling her about her feelings for Gary, and reminds Sarah that, I know you tried to kiss my husband.
Yeah.
And Sarah assures her there is nothing between them. There is absolutely no feelings between them. And then Maria says, well, if there's absolutely no feelings or anything between the two of you, are you just using him for his money then? Good question. There's no easy. Sarah is the bad guy either way.
Yeah.
Bethany bursts in and saves the day. She's got footage of who was using her credit card, and says, it sounds like Maria was having a right go at you. And Sarah says, yeah, well, I mean, not as much as I deserve, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, we ask this question, it feels like every week. Is there anything still between Sarah and Gary?
I don't think so. But I mean, in the sense that I don't think there's any sort of relationship attraction between them as such, like meaning like they don't want to be with each other. They just want to maybe occasionally be with each other.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's about it. I don't think there's anything that's long-term there at all.
No, I'm feeling that less now than I was before. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's not like the same kind of animal magnetism that Glenda and Michael have. But yeah.
All right, Betsy. So we see D.S. Swain's 16-year-old daughter, Betsy, working away in the factory at the sewing machine. Carla and
She's been thrust into the cast, I feel. She's been thrust into the storyline. She's just suddenly, boom, she's now a major player.
Well, remember when Swain and Carla had a little bit of a heart-to-heart?
Yeah.
And Swain said they weren't going to pursue charges against Carla anymore for lying to the police about Roy and Bobby's story.
Yeah.
And then Carla said, the two things aren't connected at all, but I hear you were mentioning your daughter likes fashion. Does she want to come and have a work experience day at the factory?
Sure.
So thrust in, however, it's a genuine reason why she'd be in. It was a bit of a thank you from Carla to Swain.
Yeah.
So Fizz and Carla are talking at the back wall about her, and Fizz is saying, Fizz is now full management. She's now wearing the nice clothes with a clipboard.
And isn't it weird to see her on screen again? Isn't it weird to kind of watch when that scene happened? She's talking, and it was like, oh yeah, she's still on the show. And it was like, it felt weird that she wasn't just part of because she's still acting very Fizz-like as opposed to managerial Fizz-like.
Do you not see the nice outfit and the clipboard? Come on.
I did see the clipboard and the nice outfit. Yeah. I'm sorry. I took that back.
But she says she's doing a great job. She's not super fast, but she's very good. And she's great. And so Carla goes over to talk to Betsy, catches her on her phone, but which Carla seems to have no problem with, is more just like lovely chats like, oh, you shouldn't be on your phone. That's going to get you in trouble with Fizz and blah, blah, blah. So they chat. Betsy says how much she's enjoying it. And then as Carla leaves, she says, well, Fizz says you've been doing an excellent job. You're a star. So definitely, put that phone away because you don't want to be. And Betsy says to Carla, oh, guess Fizz isn't as dozy as she looks then. Which
Ouch.
Carla didn't quite know what to do with.
I know, because, she's right. But
but it's a bold statement.
But it's a
from
bold
a
statement
16-year-old on a 1-day.
Who's getting a bit of a test run, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
So later on the day, caught on her phone again by Carla, and this time everything's starting to kick off with Roy and all these other things. So Carla's getting a bit more tense. So she's unhappy. She confiscates the phone for the rest of the workday. Flash forward to the end of the day, and Swain has come in to pick Betsy up. She's chatting with Carla about how it went. Betsy comes in looking for her phone. She says, please give me another chance tomorrow. Let me try a second day. I won't be on my phone. I won't mess it up.
Right.
And Carla says, okay, hands the phone back, but Swain intercepts it on the way past. And she says, oh, who's this JD you've been texting? Which is going to be Joel. Troublesome Joel.
Yeah, whatever Joel's last name is.
Something with a D,
Joel
I'm thinking now.
Dog or something like
that. So here's my question. It's getting close to the end of the school year over in Manchester. Will Betsy be kept on due to her work, or will she be kept on due to, say, blackmailing Sarah or somebody else?
Well, she's going to have perhaps access to like all the stories and stuff all the other stuff that's happening, right? With like Sarah and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible she'll use that to influence. Because I think one thing we've learned is that the Weatherfield Police Department is pretty loose-lipped. They'll say anything. They'll talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that it's possible because I think we'll see what happens. There's lots of things happening on the street. So I'm not sure.
All right. So Toyah, Nick, and Leanne. So last week, at the end of the week, our last thing we found out was
all that stuff happened. Yeah, this week with them, didn't it?
Yeah. So we found out that Toyah was pregnant.
Yeah.
So that was the last word. So now this week, so although Toyah's not very far along in her pregnancy, they're going to do an ultrasound because they want to try and figure out what's causing the pain.
Yeah.
And as tons of people in the comments on Substack were saying last week, and it was sort of my guess, ectopic pregnancy is what
you sort
of is your go-to. So Leanne keeps pushing for Toyah to tell the father, and Toyah keeps emphasizing that the father would not want to be involved. Meanwhile, Nick's just sort of standing there in the room going,
Yeah, going.
and because Toyah has told Leanne that it was just a one-off, one-night stand,
Right.
nothing serious. When Leanne goes back to the flat to gather some things for Toyah, Toyah tells Nick, listen, I've had years of failed IVF. I never thought I'd get pregnant. I'm going to be keeping the baby.
Yeah.
And Nick, to his credit, his response to that was, you'll be a great mom. Nothing about him.
Yeah, I thought that was nice. Yeah.
But then Nick says, we're going to have to figure out, though, what we're going to do. If we're going to tell Leanne, not tell Leanne, you guys move away, whatever's going to happen.
Yeah.
Leanne nips into the bistro. Rowan has been there meeting with Amy, who's going to be going to an institute meeting. And Rowan congratulates Leanne on finding Amy. Leanne says, listen, I have to get back. This is top secret, but Toyah is a few weeks pregnant from a one-night stand. And of course, this is just like Christmas Day for Rowan. This is everything he wanted to hear because he knows exactly who that one-night stand was with, and it was with Leanne's husband.
Yes, yeah.
David comes out of the salon, sees Nick sitting on the bench. As an aside here, was someone pushing to get rid of Maxine's bench, and all of the writers who'd been around for a long time pledged to use the bench?
No. Yeah, I feel like the producers maybe were like, no, you realize how much we spent on that bench? We're keeping it.
The plaque for Maxine?
Exactly.
So Nick's sitting on the bench looking very stressed. David sits down with him, and Nick just plain old blurts out and says, Toyah is pregnant and I'm the father. And Toyah is going to be keeping the baby.
I was thankful for that scene because I feel like, that's kind of a sibling thing. You'd just be like, I'm just going to cut to the chase. I'm not going to hide anything.
Yes, I don't have to try to say, normally I'm a good person, but you can just...
Yeah, it's like, this is what's happening.
Yeah, I agree. So back at the hospital, Nick's trying to avoid being alone with Toyah. Leanne's going to go with Toyah for her scan. They go for that, and the technician sort of looks at it all and then brings her boss in to tell Toyah that there isn't a baby. The baby hasn't died. There's no miscarriage. There just isn't a baby. And so she's going to be referred up the chain to a specialist because of things that can trigger a false positive, which is Toyah said is that usually cancer? And they said, well, we can't say, but we'll send the specialist in. So they go back. We're back in Toyah's room. She's waiting with Nick and Leanne for the specialist, and Nick is getting choked up as they're discussing the non-pregnancy.
Yeah.
Consultant comes in. Toyah has a tumor on her ovary, and blood work suggests that it could be cancerous. They're going to do a biopsy, and then they'll schedule more tests. So Leanne is supposed to be going for the biopsy with Toyah. She's getting very antsy, waiting for them to come and get Toyah, as Rowan hasn't been answering her texts so that she can decline to say she can't go to this meeting this afternoon for the Institute. There's a lot of people coming from out of town. Rowan has said it's very important, so she needs him to know that she can't come.
The one line she said was, I even heard this woman coming from Glasgow.
Yeah, 2 hours away?
Okay, exactly.
They're not coming. They're not coming from London.
London?
And so she decides that she's going to go down to the meeting and tell Rowan in person that she can't attend and she's going to come right back. So obviously she's not coming back. Anyways, she arrives. Rowan tells her it's very important for her to stay. She explains that there's no pregnancy, but Toyah's getting tested for cancer, and she really has to get back to be with her. And Rowan says, what you're about to learn will help your sister on a whole new level.
Yeah.
So Leanne's sold.
Garbage.
We then see a blindfolded Leanne being brought into the middle of a circle of about a dozen people. They all start insulting her, calling her a prostitute, a bad mother, an arsonist, getting louder and louder. until they're all chanting, "Say it, say it, say it." And she shouts, "I'm broken." And then they all start telling her good things about herself, and are very complimentary. And Rowan comes in and sort of stands behind her and asks her if she thinks she can start over and rebuild herself. And she says, yes. Blindfold off. Everybody claps. Let's go on out and have a drink. I can't tell if there's a bar at the Institute or if we're at the Chariot Square Hotel.
I don't think we're at the Chariot Square Hotel. It feels like the place they go for a drink and stuff, and the place they go to meet up at those tables, like when they did the FaceTime with Willow.
You're timing out on me. I'm losing connection.
It feels like it's the feels like they're based in an old abandoned 1987 mall. Like it just looks that weird sort of lattice in the background, and
or maybe it's supposed to be like, well, not that I've been into the Scientology Celebrity Center, but I feel they maybe have a bar in there.
Probably. You never know. You never know.
So when Leanne comes out of the meeting, she's ecstatic. Rowan tells her she's now a level 6, and this will allow her to help Toyah. Right. So Nick has brought Toyah home post-biopsy. She says to him, "You must be relieved there's no baby." And Nick tells her actually he's sad and that he was very much looking forward to having a baby with her. Leanne comes in, having blown off accompanying Toyah, and doesn't even ask how it went or apologize. She just keeps trying to talk about her own day, and insists that the most important thing is that she'll now be able to help Toyah through her journey by using her new abilities. Toyah goes to her room in disgust. Nick essentially blows up at Leanne and tells her the way she could have helped her sister was by being there with her, and he's sick of all the nonsense. And he goes to bed. Nick goes over to the Platt house, and he's sitting talking to David, and David asks how the baby daddy's doing. Nick tells him she's not pregnant, and it was a false positive, and it may be cancer. And sort of talking a bit, and then Nick says he actually doesn't know if he loves Leanne anymore. She's being just not the same person. And then David says, "Do you love Toyah?" And Nick says, "I don't know." The next morning, Leanne tells Nick that he can go into work. She's going to stay with Toyah. That's her main priority. She realizes that she let her down the day before. She wants to be there for her. So when Toyah wakes up, Leanne tells her how sorry she was for abandoning her and says, "I'm here for you today." Almost immediately, phone rings. For someone who's trying to emphasize she's going to be there for Toyah, I don't feel I'd answer the phone by saying, "Oh, hi, Rowan."
No. Oh, hey, it's work. Not the work that you know.
Another work. And then she says to Rowan, "Oh, no, I can't get away today. I can't get away today." Toya's standing there with 2 good ears. Toyah tells her to go ahead, but Leanne says, no, I can't leave you at home alone. And then she tells Toyah that Rowan was calling about a meeting of potential new members, and that it was compulsory for the level 6s, which is now Leanne. And so Toyah says, "Well, great, I'll go with you. I'll be a prospective new member." And Leanne is very excited by this. So then we see Toyah, Leanne, and Amy coming out of the seminar. Amy is all excited and inspired. Toyah says there was some validity to what they were doing. It's a lot of outdated CBT techniques, cognitive behavioral therapy techniques.
Good for you. I couldn't figure out what that meant.
I was flashing back to my Psych 101 30 years ago.
Right.
So that shows how outdated they probably were.
Yeah.
And Leanne is very pleased that Toyah is being positive about the whole thing.
Right.
At home, when Nick asked Toyah, "Did you really enjoy it?" when it was just the 2 of them. And she says, "I can better assess the situation if I'm on the inside. If I'm combative, I'll get shut out and I won't know what's happened. And if I do have cancer, I might not have much time left to help Leanne."
Yeah.
So here's my question. Is Toyah on her way out, either character dying or moving away? And will Nick leave Leanne for Toyah, whether or not he knows Toyah may be dying.
I mean, I can see Nick leaving Leanne, except for the fact that it's going to mess things up with Sam. But I feel if he did a lateral move to Toyah, Sam would be cool with it. He'd be like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine, whatever. Yeah. I don't know. Interesting. I mean, I don't know if Leanne's salvageable. Dramatic's going to have to happen. I wonder if it will.
I feel quite confident it will. I think there's a chance that Nick might, if Toyah gets a terminal diagnosis, I feel Nick might do the honorable thing and, well, I mean, not honorable. It's not honorable. It's an affair with your sister-in-law. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He might follow his heart.
Yeah, exactly.
So Roy.
Oh, thank God. It's taken us so long to get to this part of the week.
So much happened this week. And
I know. But this is the big stuff.
Yes. So Nina's running the cafe on her own as everyone is away or off sick. She reaches a breaking point and goes upstairs to beg Roy to help her. Says she can't do it on her own. She said, plus your friends and customers, they're not going to keep waiting forever. You have to come down. And Roy says, no, I'm not. I told you I'm not coming down. So Shona, who had been away looking after Lily, decides she's going to fake her own illness and try to essentially force Roy back to work because Nina is the only one who can work there. Evelyn shows up to help Nina and causes even more problems, including burning toast so badly it sets off the fire alarm, which brings Roy downstairs. And he agrees it's time to step back in. So the next day he shows up to work, says he's actually been enjoying it. And then Nina asks if she can have the morning off to go see a friend's exhibit. And Roy agrees, and Evelyn says, well, she'll stay and help Roy and or keep an eye on Roy because it's super quiet. And then she gets a call from Dev begging for cover so he can schmooze his way back into the golf club. And Roy tells Evelyn to go. He'll be fine. It's absolutely dead in there. And as soon as she leaves, he goes over, he has a moment, and then he locks the door, turns the sign to closed. Obviously, he's having flashbacks, nervous.
Sure.
We later see him leaving the cafe with a flask of soup, presumably heading to Shona's because he thinks she has a stomach bug. And a group of yobs come around the corner, and they recognize Creepy Cropper, and they start closing in on him.
Don't you call him that, too?
They called him that.
I know.
I was saying how they recognized him.
Exactly. So they recognized Creepy Cropper. That's not fair. They recognized our Roy, and they called him by that terrible nickname.
Okay. Listen, a lot of opinions for someone who isn't writing the notes.
That's what I'm here for.
So he tries to tell them he's been exonerated. They don't care. Back him into Victoria Gardens, knock his phone out of his hand. Carla sees this and comes to his rescue and sort of chases them away. Carla brings him back to the cafe, and when Evelyn and Shona show up, she leaves. Seeing Shona, Roy quickly realizes that she was faking sick in order to trick him to come in back to work. And we all know, what does Roy hate most in the world?
Deception. Lies.
Lies, yes. So he is furious at Shona, at Evelyn, who knew about it, at Nina. Shona says, well, listen, it worked. And Roy says, I was assaulted just now. Which, fair answer. So he kicks them both out. Shona then runs into Nina, who's headed back from the art exhibit. Nina's phone had been on silent, and so she'd missed the calls, which I think would have been Roy trying to tell her off, probably, and Shona and them trying to warn her. So just as Shona is updating her, an ambulance goes by and pulls up, and they run into the calf, and they see Roy unconscious on the ground receiving CPR from the EMTs.
Yeah. I know. Big Thursday.
So Joel has been assigned by Dee Dee to drive everyone to the hospital. Nina's in the ambulance. Roy's going to be getting a bypass, so they won't be able to see him for a while. Big surgery and recovery. It'll be a few hours. I believe Nina waited at the hospital, but Carla went back. Dee Dee went with her, and Joel as well. Carla comes out with the bag, and Dee Dee says Joel will bring it back to the hospital and pass it over to Nina to give to Roy. So Joel arrives at the hospital, and while he's waiting to hand the bag over, sort of figure catches his eye in the background, wearing a big oversized hoodie. And this appears to be the same figure that we had seen on the footage
From
Bethany
the security
had,
footage, yeah,
who was using her credit card. And so the figure slips into Roy's room, pulls back her hood. It's our Lauren. She's alive.
It's our Lauren. She's alive.
Yay!
I'm so excited. I was so excited to find out that she was okay.
I know, me too.
I mean, she's not okay.
She's not
but
okay.
She's not dead.
But she's not dead. So Lauren is at Roy's bedside. She's apologizing to an unconscious Roy for the fact that she had to get out and leave, and she wasn't able to come back. Obviously, I'm sure she saw that he was a suspect.
Going through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she feels guilty.
While she's looking away, we see his eyes flick open, and he seems to maybe see her. And then when she turns back, he closes them again. So the nurse comes in, sees Lauren, and says, "Oh, you must be the niece. If you need anything, let me know." And she says, "Is he going to be okay?" And they say, "Yeah, like it seems to have all worked, so he'll be okay." Yeah. So she goes to head out, and as she passes one of the family rooms, the door opens, and she is yanked inside, hand over the mouth, by Joel.
Bum, bum, bum.
So we then see flashbacks to when Lauren and Joel first met, which is when he was her duty solicitor.
Had a real Scooby-Doo feel to the whole thing. They kind of went back and showed you everything.
And I didn't know how much of it was the original shots, like if that was the original footage from Joel.
No, I don't think so. I think they recreated it.
Joel's suit was very ill-fitting when he was the duty solicitor in the first shots. Whereas now he wears lovely tailored suits. Yeah,
true.
So when he was her duty solicitor, he managed to get her off with a caution. And that's how Joel and Dee Dee first met. And then after taking her on as a client, he learns that she basically has nobody. She has no contact with her mother. Her father's in jail. He's a bad guy anyway. She doesn't have much contact with him. She has nowhere to go. Basically, she is extremely vulnerable.
Yeah.
So when she gets her flat, Joel shows up with a bottle of wine and gives her a bit of money to sort of tide her over. And she feels bad, but he says, "Listen, I make a lot of money doing this job as a lawyer. Don't worry about it." Yeah. We then see glimpses going back over the next few months. He would keep giving her money. One night when he shows up with a bottle of wine, she has no electricity on. She tells him she's behind in her rent. She's unplugged the fridge because she has no food in it anyways, because she can't afford food. And she ran out of money on her electricity card, and her power's been turned off. And she's beside herself. She says she's desperate. She doesn't know what to do. And he tells her he's going to take care of it all. He's going to pay the rent tomorrow. He's going to put money on her electricity card. He's going to go buy food to put in the fridge for her.
Right.
And she says, I don't think I'll ever be able to repay you that amount. And he says, "That's okay. I'm not expecting to be repaid, but if you can, that's great, but I won't miss it." So Lauren's feeling increasingly guilty, and she says there wishes there was just some way she could thank him. I don't think she was implying this, but Joel saw his opening, moved on over next to her on the couch.
I don't think she was implying it, but I mean, she had done that kind of thing previously, so she kind of knew what the deal was, I think.
Well, except I don't know if she had been, maybe she was doing the Ovids then, but I don't think she was meeting anybody before then.
No, but like back in the day when wasn't she like doing similar things when she was still a white supremacist?
Well, I think she was more being, I think it was more like her dad saying, "Hey, you should date Max Platt."
Yeah. I feel that she was hoping against hope that he'd be different.
Yes.
That's what I felt like.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. I agree. And And he would seem like such a grown-up. He's got a good job, nice suits, can afford a bottle of wine.
Yes.
And knows how to fix problems.
Yeah.
So anyways, we flash forward over the next few months, and they're in a relationship as such. He would keep showing up with a bottle of wine, would show up with jewelry for Lauren, including that necklace. Then we come back to the two of them talking in the hotel room, and we see her saying to him that she felt she had no choice but to sleep with him, and that he'd put her in a really uncomfortable situation. And he says, I don't like the inference that I was paying for sex. I'm not someone who would pay for sex. And she says, I didn't think I was someone who would take money for sex, but here we are.
Exactly.
And she says, every time you came over, we slept together, and you would leave me money. And as time went on, he was becoming more violent, and he would just tell her, no, you, and he actually said to her in the hotel room, at the hospital room, he said, you liked it rough. That was what you wanted. And then we see that flashback to when she was kissing Bobby, and we see her arm, and it's just solid purple bruises. And then we see one day Joel coming over. Lauren's not dressed up to meet him the way she usually was. And he's very upset because he says she's been dodging his calls for days. And she says, I just didn't have time to meet you. I was trying to figure out when it would work. So obviously this is when Lauren was coming into the circle of hanging out with Max and Sabrina and Bobby. She had a bit of support network around her and was probably trying to extricate herself a little bit from Joel. And so he's very unhappy. He tries to drag her into the bedroom, and she won't go along with it. So he becomes a bit violent, tries to grab her. She tries to run out the back door of the flat, but it's locked from the inside. It's a very British thing that you'll have to have a key in the lock on the inside to unlock it.
To open the door,
which I don't think we tend to have here.
No.
And he uses that opportunity to grab her, and then we see the scene again that we'd seen before, where she's thrown to the ground. He's pulling her up by her hair. He smashes her head on the ground, and then he hits her head with the furniture leg. He then seems to realize what he's done and panics and stands up. She is just lying there motionless. I think maybe he takes her phone with him, but I'm not positive.
I can't remember.
He then tries to go out the back door, and he looks around for the key in a few spots, but he can't find it. So he decides to leave out the front door, and he leaves it. I can't remember if they call it on or off the latch, but he clicks the door so that it stays unlocked.
Be off the latch, I think.
And heads out, leaving her lifeless on the ground. Back to talking in the hospital room, and Joel says he doesn't like the way Lauren's rewriting history. She points out everything is true and that he left her for dead. She says she's not scared of him anymore, though, because she's no longer alone. And he then tries to shove her again, and she protects her abdomen. And then he realizes why she's wearing this giant oversized hoodie, unzips it, and reveals her pregnant belly. What a week.
What a week. I have problems, though. I have problems.
Okay,
so my problem is, so he bashes her head with the furniture leg, which, based on what he was using, probably wouldn't have been enough to off her entirely anyway.
He was also whacking her head on the ground with her hair.
So it was brutal. It was awful. But he didn't there didn't seem to be any panic in the idea that she might still be out there. That's one thing that I found was weird with the story, is that he didn't feel like, oh my God, did you see Lauren? Did you? You know what I mean? There's no sort of panic.
Right. Yes. Okay. I see.
He was just like, I guess she's just gone.
Right. Did some other bad guy come in and hide her body for me?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was the weird part about that. And the other weird part was when she got using the credit card, Bethany's credit card, and but Bethany still had the card in her wallet. So did she just write the number down?
No, you'd know a bad guy who can clone it for you, I guaranteed.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. That means that she had to have access twice.
Well, no, she maybe just had to get the number and then you can get someone to do it. I don't know.
To make a card.
But you're right. It would probably be harder to tap with a fake card
totally.
that you didn't have in your possession.
I'm not here to ruin the story. I'm just here to point out the things I need explained.
Can we all just be happy that Lauren is back and alive?
I am happy about that. I'm a little distraught at the fact that she's pregnant, but I'm happy that she's okay. That's good.
And I like that actor a lot.
Oh, me too. She's great. She's going to be one of these actors you're going to see in like a bunch of stuff after this.
I think so too. Yeah.
I'm also looking forward to the idea that I think that Roy, my prediction is that Roy is going to play a big part in Joel's comeuppance.
Oh, all right. And now after his heart attack, I was prepared that was going to be Roy sailing off into the sunset.
Oh, no. He's going to shave that beard off and he's going to come right back in.
Oh, goodness. I hope he shaves that beard off.
He's going to take care of things with Joel. That's my prediction.
And I feel for all the young men who worry about their beard not meeting up at the sides. I feel Roy's isn't meeting up on one side, and that man must
meeting
be
up anywhere.
65 plus.
Yeah, it's not meeting up anywhere.
So despite all this, there were some great humorous moments.
There were. I'm going to see if I can pull up mine as well.
Okay.
I think I made a note of mine. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'll let you start with your humorous moment because I have a few, but also I want something else that jumped out at me, not humorous. When Toyah was getting taken down for her scans and tests, especially for pregnancy and for a pain that had her doubling over, it struck me that I feel in Canada, they'd put you in a wheelchair to push you down for your tests.
Totally.
You wouldn't walk down in your hospital gown.
Not for that kind of test.
Floor.
Absolutely not. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so can I tell my two funny moments?
All right, let's hear your humorous moments. Yeah.
They're both from David, as you might expect. One is him talking to Nick.
Yeah, I have some David ones too.
Refers to him as golden balls.
Yeah.
Which is pretty great. And the second one is he says to Maria, you've been miles away. Any further and you need jabs. I like that one. Did you have the same thing? On my list.
Yeah, I actually rewound it to get the exact quote. I like that a lot.
We should go on a date.
I also liked when Debbie said to Stim regarding the statue, why don't you grab a seat and take a weight off your personalities, boys? And Evelyn on finding out that Sevi Ballesteros had previously died and said, "Oof, nobody carried off a V-neck sweater and slacks like he did."
Yeah, that was pretty good.
And I also enjoyed Evelyn saying to Nina while she was trying to cheer her up, "All your little goth friends will be tickled black."
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was a nice tailored comment.
So did
you have a tender moment?
Well, that leads into my lovely moment of Evelyn and Nina sitting outside, and Evelyn trying to make Nina feel better about having abandoned Roy, left him up behind. Yeah. She was still her non-syrupy self, but she was very kind and supportive.
Yes, yeah. I like this turn in Evelyn. It's good. It's good.
Does this mean you're coming over to Team Evelyn?
I'm not on Team Evelyn currently, but if I get free tickets, I'll show up to her games. That's basically it. Yeah. I like it. So I will tell you as well that this is the kind of week as a Coronation Street fan that is a payoff week. It's like, yes, we've been building to this.
Yeah.
This is exciting. Lots of things are happening. And I was mentioning the fact I'm traveling here, as you know, Shannon, with Adam and Paul. And Adam is from the company I'm working for currently. And Paul is our cameraman / director. And I was telling them about this, telling Paul specifically about the Coronation Street podcast, North of Weatherfield. And he thought I was insane.
Yep.
He was like, has that been on since the 90s? And I was like, the 90s, Paul. It's been on since 1961. It's been going forever. And I said, he's like, oh, so what's, I said, it was a really big week this week. And Paul said, oh yeah, did Susie kiss so-and-so? And I was like, no, Paul. Murderers showed up. People were almost dead. He was like, there are murders on Coronation Street? And I was like, Paul, you have no idea.
Every few months.
No idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. and he said, like serial murderers? And I was like, yeah, serial killers. Absolutely. Richard Hillman.
Yeah.
Yeah. To name one.
And the guy, Tony.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. So he was intrigued. I'm going to see if I can pull. I've only got a couple more days with Paul, but I'll see if I can pull him over to the dark side.
So one of my other lovely moments was Tommy O telling Steve he shouldn't give up on being a county supporter because of Tracy. I think that was a genuine.
I didn't like it.
Felt bad.
I didn't like it. But
my other one was David. How David is being so supportive of Nick regarding the Toyah stuff, the Leanne stuff, and all of it.
David is such a weird character, but I love the fact that I agree. He's being like a really good sibling, matter of fact. I'm still going to mock you, but I do care about what's happening to you.
But also I'm now like 37 or something. So I'm not like I'm maturing.
Oh my God, at least.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. I do like David's crazy hair, but he does need a little bit of a trim.
It's wild.
Yeah.
His hair it's wild.
I feel it fits into the barber hairstylist look, though.
Part of his hair, it's probably got its own area code. It's just crazy. It's all over the place.
So that's it. That's all we've got.
That's pretty good. But there was such a big. It's always difficult to do these ones remotely, but I feel I'm glad we did it finally because it was such a big week.
Yeah.
And I think a sense of resolve, not even resolve, just the potential for resolve. A little bit of resolve knowing that Lauren's not dead, which is good.
Yeah.
The fact that she's pregnant is massive.
Yeah.
And again, I predict that Roy is going to come through his bypass and he's going to be the comeuppance. He's going to be tired of this crap and he's going to just take care of business. That's what I predict.
All right. That's good.
Anyway. Thank you so much for watching and or listening to North of Weatherfield. Of course, you can find us at weatherfield.ca, where you can subscribe by email, and you'll get an email notification every time there's a new episode. You can, of course, also find us on your favorite podcast platforms. Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts. That's just for Dan and Sharon. And all the other ones, too. Yeah, exactly. Let's play the theme. So it was a big week.
It was.
It was hard. I'm thankful for Gem, CBC Gem.
Yeah.
I was able to bring that up. And then when I watched the majority of this in Fredericton, in New Brunswick, and I plugged my laptop. It was like an old school hotel, and they had an Ethernet cable and they had an HDMI cable. I got to plug straight in, so I just mirrored my screen onto the huge TV, and I was like, oh yeah, this is great. This is great.
Nice.
It was good. It was good. Well, it was good. So I can't wait for next week. I hope they don't like give us all this and then just drag us out. They got to keep the pace up a little bit longer.
They do a good job. Coronation Street moves it along. I have faith.
I agree. Me too. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, everyone. See you next week.